Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Tuesday Talks. I am glad that you're joining with us this morning. Good to be here with you this morning. As you can tell, I'm in a different location even right now. We're still doing these renovations around the building, and there's painting going on, so I had to find a place where we could sneak in to do this, but glad you're here and joining us today. You know, when I started this, one thing I have said about these Tuesday Talks, I would talk about things that are going on in our world even, and though I don't want to talk about a specific thing that's going on in our world, we've had a lot of things over these last few weeks in our country, and of course things that have been going on around the world of disagreements and sides being taken on issues, and a lot of noise and a lot of positions are being pushed, whether it's in the news and on Twitter, on just in general, positions over certain topics. And I'm not here to talk about what positions are right or wrong, in this video at least, but one thing that has disturbed me with this, and we've been heading in this direction and probably been in this direction for a while within our country especially, is debate is okay. It's okay to debate topics and different laws and things that you would like to see take place. That's part of a democracy. That's part of where we live. The struggle that I have with what our current tenor and the debate that's taking place in our country is, I'm not sure there's really a lot of debate taking place. You know, part of debating is expressing your opinion, expressing your side, let the other side express theirs, let conclusions be drawn, and if there's ways that you can come together and work and find some common ground, that's great. But what you see a lot, especially in our political world, is people are on one side or people are on the other side, and they're very harsh about what they want to do and not a lot of listening going on. In fact, there's a lot of insulting going on and a lot of inciting even to violence and things like this. And I think it is, as a Christian, I'm not talking about which side of the debate is right or wrong at this moment, but as a Christian, we don't need to fall into that trap where we talk to each other and talk to people and talk to friends in that same way. And it reminds me in James chapter 3, that kind of that beginning there in that chapter, James is really talking about the tongue and how the tongue can set things on fire. I love how he sits here and he says in verse 8 that the tongue can't be tamed. In fact, it can be a deadly poison that's here. Because then he goes on in verse 9, and this is what's interesting and what I really want to kind of bring you home to today. James says with our tongues, these are the same things that when you and I come together on Sunday and worship God, we're praising Him, we're blessing His name, but it's the exact same tongue that we use to curse other people and curse mankind. And I want to encourage you that we take hold of what James actually says a little bit earlier in James chapter 1 and verse 19, where he says, I want you to be slow to speak. I don't want you to be so quick to jump out and say something, but I want you to listen. And that when you're coming across people that you disagree with and people that you may not necessarily share their same values or share their same belief systems, but to maybe take some time to listen to what that person has to say. Or maybe it's a family member that you're disagreeing with over things that they're choosing to do in their life or not. And maybe just taking that extra second or two to think about what they're saying, to listen to their side. Maybe, just maybe, you may grab another point of view that not necessarily you're going to agree with, but maybe you can see where they come from, that at least begins to have a dialogue, to be able to find some common ground, to be able to work together. And I also want to remind you what Paul says in Colossians chapter 4 and verse 6. Where he tells you as Christians, make sure your conversations, the words that come out of your mouth, your speech, be seasoned with grace, filled with grace, seasoned with salt, because there are a lot of people that we're interacting with that we only see a little snapshot of what's going on in their lives, that we only see this little bitty piece of time, and often we make judgments based on that little piece of information that we see, and we don't see the big picture of everything that they're going through. And so I want to encourage you today, this week, to take that extra second to listen to that person that you may disagree with. Maybe look and think about the words that you are saying, and how would you feel if somebody said those things to you? How would you respond to how maybe the tone of voice that you were about to use or the words that you were about to say to that person? How would you feel if you were the one who were on the receiving end of that? And above all, let's make sure that the words that we are saying reflect the nature and the character of Christ, reflect His church and His glory, and not ours. And that we aren't using this same tongue to praise God in our songs and in our worship on Sunday to hurt somebody else and to bring somebody else down. Think about what you're doing this week. Think about the words you say and the conversations that you have. And we will see you next Tuesday right here on Tuesday Talks.